The original field was about 10 acres. And so even though we couldn't put 10 acres worth of vines in, at one point in time, we put in a variety and a half, so a little over 4 acres at once, but we knew that we wanted to use that, expand to that entire 10 acres initially. So right from the get-go, we knew that we wanted to do 10 acres and that it would take about 5 years to do that at that rate of expansion. And that was based on us doing all of the work. So how long we knew it would take to lay out the rows and dig holes, and how many plants we could actually get in the ground at one time, and that sort of thing. Because until just a couple of years ago, all of the work the entire time was done by Andy and myself, and then his dad, until he passed away 4 years ago. And then we had an elderly neighbor that would come up and just be an extra pair of hands for stuff. But we did all of it, every bit of it. And so that was just what was feasible for us at the time. And financially, it was still a big investment, but it gave us a chance to sort of see how it was going to develop. The tricky thing with a crop like this, and what everybody has to sort of consider, is kind of that lag time between putting it in and then when you could actually get any revenue back off of it. And grapes typically have about a 3-year down period. We were really lucky because it was put into a fertile hay stand on a high vigor rootstock, so we had a lot of growth and ended up partially cropping it out the second year instead of the third or fourth. And so even though it wasn't enough to have any kind of a profit, it at least offset that loss and then allowed us to expand a little bit the next year. And then everything from things even like wood versus steel, and why financially those things had to be decided upon. But we knew we wanted to go to that 10 acres. We've ended up going to 20 now, but those decisions were made after we had secured relationships with buyers and then planted on request. Initially, the other goal was just to show that we were interested enough in the viability of the farm to keep it in the family and have something for our kids to inherit. The original 10 acres was financially split with my in-laws, so they technically owned half of the trellising, half of the plants, and then subsequently got half of the income off of that fruit. And so once the expansion happened past that point, they didn't have that kind of a split with us, but that was sort of that initial agreement. We still don't own the land under those plants, so that's where it's kind of tricky. But technically what's sitting on it will roll to our kids. So in the meantime, we still don't know what his mom's plans are for her percentage of that original block, but in the meantime, she knows she's going to get the income off of that initial block. So she helps pay a percentage of the chemicals that we used throughout the growing season and the labor that it costs to get that stuff done. But at this point in time now, all of those original plants and trellising pieces and everything else, all the hardware kinds of things are paid for. So even though there's some expense involved, she's able to be profitable off of her portion of it. And that was part of our agreement by her allowing us to do that, and then in turn us taking care of her, so that hopefully it will end up easing the transition down the road. We're not as profitable off of it because we were reinvesting in additional expansion that she's not involved with, but it allows her to be profitable off of the grapes. There are a couple of different kinds of goals. As far as tangible goals, the hope was that even if things just transferred along bloodline, that there would be some portion of this farming enterprise that the kids could inherit. We're assuming that there'll be land involved with that, obviously, and then the operational stuff that goes with it, the equipment and the actual plants themselves, only because they have such a long lifetime and they aren't going to go anywhere. It's not, they might have to replace fence in 30 years, but they aren't going to have to probably replace plants prior to that either, so it's something there. And then there were things that, and actually because of the kids, they led into other decisions that were made. Like before Andy's dad passed away, he allowed us to work with him to reroute electricity to that part of the farm because his grandson might someday want that building to be electrified. So he was okay with helping us get it electrified. And, he used his knowledge of, electrical wiring and everything else too, and then giving us access to be able to do that. As far as but the intangible things I think are there too. So the idea of keeping a farm intact and productive in a land that is just being completely consumed by urban sprawl. In an area where we're one of just 3 productive farms kind of in our general radius. And even though 3 is pretty substantial still because of the way this area is developed, the only way that they're doing it is because of keeping it in the family and having multiple generations involved. None of them are still in the primary operator setup. So that, I think, as far as that goes, and then just even the intangibles of having something else other than work and school to do, and having our kids understand what happens at the end of the day when you have something to show for your hard work, what happens when things fail because of factors that are completely beyond your control, like the weather, and how you figure out a way to rebound that, how you protect yourself against times that happens, and just, seeing the joy of bringing a harvest in is pretty cool.